folks, it's Sven back again, and today it's proper chords to Honeysuckle Rose on request. I asked you if you have some questions in the community area of my channel, and a lot of you responded, and now I'm doing Honeysuckle Rose because this was a request often asked. It's a very nice swing classic that also Django played. And I will start with the demonstration. So I play one chorus of rhythm guitar and of the intro. I will put the intro in front of the form. I will tell you when the form starts. So the good news is that in hot jazz it's played very easy with fewer chords than in a normal contemporary jazz context. And it goes like this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Just C and F. And then from the beginning, from C. Well, this is basically the tune, and the intro is this typical riff that Django and Grappelli that they played. This I think he plays it with a band or something like that. If you play it alone, I recommend playing the two notes of Grappelli and Reinhardt in the beginning. So I'm playing these two notes, which is D and G sharp, and then I'm playing G, and then a hammer on from F to G, and D, F, D, F. Whatever you like, it's very close here, so you can use index and middle finger or index or ring finger, whatever you like. And if you want to play it an octave lower, you can play from the D on the G string 7th fret and play then the G sharp or A flat, whatever you like to call it, on the B string. In order to play it a bit like rhythm guitar, I mute all the other strings. And then you can play the second voice as well, for example in the repetition, from the D. C hammer on, and then A and C. So you play this in the introduction while the rhythm guitar player plays G7, G flat 7, and F6 9. So there's countless ways of playing these chords. An easy way that you probably know is the pretty normal G dominant 7 chord in Gypsy and normal jazz in any kind of jazz music. In Gypsy jazz we like to use our thumb up here and playing ring finger, natural B and D. This is the most common way to play it. Lots of players play it like this because you have these relaxed hand position all the way through with the thumb lying here on the fretboard, so you don't really have to go into the bar chord position. Which doesn't mean that you play either the bar chord position or not. Both is correct in certain situations. If I play, a very difficult bar chord, or if I want to play some classical stuff where I really have to, make wide voicings, then of course I switch to that kind of position. But when I'm playing rhythm guitar, and this is also something which is very difficult, and good rhythm guitarists are high virtuosos, I promise, and they like to play like this because it's very relaxed when you have to accompaniment a whole song, like 7 minutes of improvisation on stage in the jazz context. So, but you can of course use this chord as well. It can also be played with a relaxed thumb position. Move it to the 2nd fret, and then we got F6 9, and I play this one actually in that context. My thumb is playing the F. The middle finger can perform both notes, C and F, but you can also do this with 2 fingers. The index is playing A and the pinky is playing D. And if you want to play the whole chord, you can play with the ring finger also G. So you got 6 strings like F, C, F, A, D, and G. And this is the introduction, like. Like that. In part A, actually, now, that starts now, it's very easy because in gypsy jazz or hot jazz, we usually play C, 7, and F. Two chords. The C dominant 7/9 is played like this, with G in the bass, C, the middle finger is performing both notes. If you can't do that, just play the A string. It's also fine. Index is playing E and the ring finger is covering all strings. If you have problems with bending fingers at all, it's also fine to play a C9 like this, middle 4 strings, leaving out the E strings. Muting them, whether with the middle finger touching the E string slightly or with the thumb covering it from above. The upper string, the E string, is muted with the left hand by, getting the fingers to the fretboard, which is also, of course, not to recommend if you play some stuff where everything should ring. In a finger-picking context, you make sure that everything rings, but when you play rhythm guitar, these muting techniques, going close to the fretboard, away from the fretboard, lying the hand like this is very important when playing rhythm guitar. And if you have some of these old European teachers telling you this is wrong, oh my God, no. The only thing that they missed is the evolution of the guitar in the 20th century. This is very important. I'm telling you that from my own experience because my first teacher was like that. Horrible. So mute the string like that, and then just play F, the same F that we had before. If this chord is too hard, just replace it by playing the middle strings again, only playing C, F, A, and D for F. In the contemporary jazz version, what you play is G minor and C. And keep your ears open because sometimes that's also done in the hot jazz version. You can always figure out if the bass player or the rest of the band is playing more like G, C, G, C, G, C, G, C, F. Also on the F chord, some players like to play a little turnaround. So you could, instead of playing like the Django version that's often played like da 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 da. You can also play like da 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 da, G minor and C, da 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 da, and turn around. Da 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 da. What I did now was playing a turnaround with F, G sharp dim. I'm just playing 3 strings here. It could be D flat 7 as well with A flat in the bass, but it's, I think, G sharp, F, and B. And then you go to G minor again and C. And then I played F, and to return to the G when you play the 2 chords, I played F sharp dim. You'll see it again, it's like honeysuckle rose, like this. Some turnarounds, some players play this turnaround. They on the F, they play F and then D flat dominant 7 and C dominant 7, which is pretty much the intro, like the G and the G flat. It's the tritone substitution. The tritone substitution comes because when you play D dominant 7, D flat dominant 7, and put the G in the bass, you end up having G dominant 7, raised 11, and flat 13, which is a chord that's not played as a comping chord in gypsy jazz, but this is where the relation comes from this tritone substitute. You can always substitute a dominant chord by playing the dominant chord on the tritone. So this was the second example, playing D flat dominant 7 and C dominant 7. So then you got like like this. A last option, and I am telling you all these things because on session it's played differently and it's very good, and people will keep you in mind if you were able from hearing to play what they are playing. Some players, they don't hear, they play their version all the session long, no matter what the other guys are doing. But if you can, you know, fit in and just play what the other guys are doing, people will like to play with you. This is a very good advice that I can give you. It's a good trick, very, very useful. So the last one is that you stay on C for the last bar. So you do like ba ba de de ba ba de de ba ba de de ba ba da de. All these things can happen and will be done. It's not, you know, a disaster if you play a different turnaround. In sessions, usually different turnarounds are played, and it's not really such a big deal, because in music we have this, let's say, tendencies where a progression goes to, where it starts and where it goes. And there are variations that you can bring into every progression. You see, this is a dominant tonic tune. It's one of the tunes starting on the tonic, on the dominant, and then goes to the tonic. And there's a lot of ways to do it, you know. You can even go like, move up the 2/5, you know, to A. This is not in that tune with the melody, it's not compatible, but you know, stuff like that happens all the time. Basically, it's just going from the dominant chord to the tonic. And as long as everyone is doing this somehow, and the direction, the harmonical direction is correct, it will sound correct, actually. Okay, that's all about part A. Of course, when we go to part B, we will stay on the F, because there's no going back to the C7. So we have the second part A, like, I play the jungle version again with only C7. Now I'm going to F7, and I'm playing this F7-9. If you stay here, you can play a very big F7, but I like this one more, it's more comfortable for me. So I go for part B, Honeysuckle Rose. I move to ba 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 dum, ba ba de ba de 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 dum, ba da da dum, ba ba de 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 de. So it's F dominant 7/9, covering C and F with my middle finger, playing A. It's the same that we had for, you know, C7, just at the 8th fret. So then I play the B flat 6/9 chord. Again, if you can't do this, just play the middle strings. Then I'm moving chromatically downwards to G. This is a typical movement at the bass. Sometimes players even do it with the octave, like this is, you know this, from B flat. If you're the second rhythm guitar player that played the solo, you can do stuff like that, like like that, you know. And it's a typical movement. The only thing that you have to keep in mind, as long as you're at the G, you need the G dominant 7 chord. So this is the one I played. My thumb is playing G, middle finger is playing D and G, index is playing B, and pinky is playing F. That's pretty much this chord. And you can also play this chord as a bar chord. The only trouble that you will get is that then the high G will be ringing probably, which is a sound that we avoid in hot jazz. And then back to C7. And it starts on the same, it ends on the part B, ends on the same chord than the A part starts with. Sometimes that might be a little confusing if you play standard phrases as an advanced soloist, because you can't release to the beginning of part A. You have to stick to the dominant chord where you have been, you know, playing the end of part B. So this is actually it. When you want to have any variations for that chord or for that chord, this one is a good option, B flat 6, because then you can go to this very short G dominant 7. I often do that as well, playing G, A string muted, F and B. It's a big band voicing. Also cool here, like from the beginning, part A, the last A is the same. When the tune ends, in the very end, when you played all the solos and the last part A starts, then instead of F, we will play G7 again. So last A will be this is it. For this moment, which is the introduction and also the outro, I forgot to explain something in the beginning. When you're the rhythm guitar player or something, the violin player plays like... sorry. You can also play like... which is also cool. It's G sharp dim. It's like G7 dominant 9, G7 flat 9, and then G flat 7 flat 9. The dim chord is just used. You can also just use the upper 3 strings. Then you got G dominant 7, G flat dominant 7. But I like the dim chord sound here. And you can play that while the violin player, for example, or the clarinet player is playing the melody part, if you have lots of instruments. Well, that was basically proper chords to Honeysuckle Rose. Check out my channel, there's tons of material basically about rhythm guitar, because I, for myself, play rhythm guitar in a very, let's say, well-known band in Gypsy Jazz. I'm the rhythm guitar player of Joshua Stefan since 2016. So, and also I play for the great violinist Sandro Roy. And there's a lot of material, but I also teach lead guitar things. I'm also a lead guitar player and sometimes also play solos in Joshua's set. So I teach a lot of things. I have a lot of performances by great players. So make sure to subscribe to my channel. Leave me a comment if you like that. And I wish you all the best and hopefully see you next time. Bye.